Richard Fox, I'm a member of the Whittlesea Community Recovery Group, or Committee, and we've got 5 acres just down the road. The fauna was pretty diverse. There was everything from the occasional echidna, and then obviously we got roos and yeah, just the normal stuff. Probably the interesting thing is the lack of bird life, and the silence was amazing. We actually had king parrots that come just about every morning and just sit on the back deck expecting to get some feed. And after the fires, it was just there was nothing there. We did see an echidna probably about 6 months afterwards, but yeah, slowly but surely stuff's come back.
I'm Rob Gratian and a wildlife ecologist, and I've spent about 12 years looking at all sorts of critters up here in Kinglake Ranges. I came up here about 3 months after, and there was very little regeneration happening. The fire was so intense in spots that the soil you could see had an orange crust, and I was always taught that when it has that orange crust, there's no organic matter. It was so hot that there's nothing that it can actually germinate. After about 6 months, you could start to see there was some regrowth starting to happen, and you get the coloniser species, so the bracken's typically one of the first that starts coming back. You have these successional changes like you do with the plant life, and you have the same thing happening with the wildlife, particularly the birds. You start getting some of those smaller birds coming back in, and scrub wrens and the thornbills up in the epicormic growth of the trees. After the 12-month period, we did some studies in Wallaby Creek targeting a couple threatened bats. We did find that those 2 threatened bats, the eastern bent-winged bat and the large-footed myotis, certainly they were there, but not in the numbers that we would normally expect, and the numbers we'd historically got 10 years previous. So we're still getting a lot of the common birds, like we can hear in the background there, yellow-crested cockatoos and corellas and the likes, and the ravens. So those birds that cope well with these edge effects, and like the open paddocks and the likes, the magpies and magpie larks. So it's still taking a little bit of time to get the diversity with certainly the woodland bird species here. There's some animals that are more fortunate than others because they've got wings. So obviously the birds and bats can fly away and get away from the immediate danger. But there's other animals like wombats, smaller animals like antechinus and native rats, which have very small home ranges and don't move too far. They get caught up in the fires. Our nest box is made of timber, and it gives alternative roosting sources, given that there's likely to be a shortage of them post-fires, with a lot of the trees collapsing. The thermal qualities in a hollow tree are often species specific. So depending on the design of the nest box, you can encourage particular species that you're trying to encourage to come back. So there's any number of designs depending on whether it's a large bird, possum, small antechinus, or bats. My biggest key message, I would say, is let's get over that mentality of it looks nicer with nice grazed understory, or else, or slashed or whatever. Let that vegetation grow back, that understory vegetation, the ground flora there under those trees. You need that structural diversity, and we've got some of the overstory here with some of the large old trees that survive, but there's a big gap between there and where we're at here. So it's all about structure for habitat, and a variety of structure in terms of the heights of the vegetation and what's down at ground level. May look a little bit messy, but just let it come back naturally.